These thoughts up in my head, things I never did. I took some L's, but I'm still here.
I got these thoughts up in my head. I toss and turn about some things I never said. I got regrets about some things I never did. I took some risks and took some L's, but I'm still here. And I know.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I'm your host, Ed, and as always, journey with me as we pursue greatness in a world full of chaos. I hope your week is going very well. We're coming off of the Easter weekend, Resurrection Sunday, so I really pray that you and your family had a good time, that we remember the reason for everything that is happening, for the reason why we're here. Very grateful for being able to breathe. This week is an interesting journey, but like everything in life, we're gonna get through because that's what we do. We take it one step at a time. We trust in God and we keep moving. So that's where we are right now. I'm hoping that you all are pursuing your dreams and going after what it is that you have been wanting to pursue for quite some time now. We're in April, so as the time moves, I really hope that that thing that you set to work out on at the beginning of the year, you finally decided to take that first step. I pray that it's going well. And if you still haven't, don't be afraid to take that step. We'll dive into that a little bit today. Our title of the episode is called The Fear of. Insert whatever you fear. And this is episode 31. So shout out to everybody that's been rocking with me with all these episodes. Also, shout out to the 106 followers over on TikTok. Shout out to y'all. I broke the 100 mark. So thank y'all for all of you who are rocking with me over there. For those who are on Instagram, we getting close to 100 over there as well. YouTube, I'd like to grow a little bit there, but hey, it is what it is. However you get in the content, that's the important thing. So shout out to all y'all. Y'all gotta excuse me too, because I got a little bit of a cold going on. I think with the weather changing and sinuses or what may have you. And of course, my little 2-year-old who's sneezing and coughing everywhere. We're not immune. But we'll get through because that's what we do. Anywho, as always, and I know I just mentioned it, but you feel free to hit us up over at the Overthinking Thoughts Pod on Instagram. And then you can also hit us up on TikTok at Overthinking Thoughts Pod. So, we do both of those. We also stream on YouTube. We're on Spotify podcasts. We are Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. I'm sure there's something else, but we're around. Just Google Overthinking Thoughts Pod. Hopefully we pop up. I keep saying we. Well, by we, I mean us. All of you who are supporting what we do. So by all means, I appreciate the support and everything that I've seen in the comments, and then just people who are visiting the page and liking it, adding it to favorites. Man, thank y'all so much. So let's get into it. So the fear of, I was thinking about how I wanted to approach the topic this week. I was going in one different direction, but then I was looking up some Bible verses, and then I saw some stuff through that I was like, "Oh, this would be good." And then it took me back to a memory um that I want to share with everybody. So I remember back like late December of 2020. I know it was after Christmas. So this was before my little man was born, and we had a room which I was thinking was going to be my podcast room, but then I procrastinated so much. But at the time, I was working, I was in grad school, we were expecting, and I just remember being in this like weird state of just kind of feeling like I just existed, like I was just there, and not knowing where to go, or if I went too far, like the fear of what happens if. A lot of anxiety, a lot of like anxious thoughts, a lot of overthinking, right? And I remember I was just praying for guidance and strength. I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed. This was, like I said, December. My baby was due in March. I had to finish my grad semester. I was in my capstone. Um, and I just needed something. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, because once I get this degree, I don't know where I'm gonna head. Like, where do I go? Like, I was just lost and scared at the same time, and very nervous. The fear of the unknown, basically, of like, what happens if I get to this point and then this and this happens, right? And I remember I prayed. I don't know how long the prayer was. It could have been 10, 15 minutes. And just I remember getting it finished and just feeling like incomplete. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to trust whatever happens. But it was just such a just a it just felt odd, I guess. And so I was getting ready to get up and go out of the room, and my phone buzzes, and I look and I pick it up, and it's a alert from the Bible app. And usually during that time, like it'll be like, oh, you should read this or join this plan, or people are doing this or doing that. But it was an actual Bible verse. And this has never happened before. Like it's the first time this happened. And the Bible verse was Joshua 1, verse 9. And it said, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I just remember carrying that with me to the point where, like, I had to carry it with me through my capstone because there was a point where I thought I was going to fail that, but I got a perfect score on that, got my master's degree, was super excited about that. My baby was born, he was healthy. Later on in that year, I got a job promotion. So it was like I feared what could have been, but I still took the steps to just go forward and see where it was going to lead me. And to kind of go back, there's a devotion that I just started reading the other day, and it talks about fear. And I wanted to share this passage because I thought this would be really beneficial for all of us. It says that fear is a part of the enemy's arsenal to wreak havoc in our lives, ultimately diminishing our faith. The enemy is masterful at deception, and so his strategy is to cause us to focus on our fears, false evidence appearing as reality, instead of the one in whom our faith rests, Jesus Christ. When we submit to fear and allow our minds to become controlled by it, Satan has influence. So when you are fearing something, you're basically looking at the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen next. And one of the reasons why fear can run so rapid is because we want control of things that we don't see. So some of us will play out things in our mind to feel like we have to be prepared. Me, right? Um there's people who are afraid to take steps because they're afraid of how great they can become. There's people who are victims of their past as far as like holding themselves hostage and keeping their mind incarcerated, that they're things that they still haven't forgiven themselves from, so they don't feel like they're good or strong enough. There are people who fear, I don't know, you fear taking next steps, you fear relationships, you fear holding yourself accountable to better yourself. You fear family. You fear, I don't know. There's so many things in life that can cause us to be scared. However, when you go back to Joshua 1:9, it tells you there's two strong words in there: strong and courageous. This means like when it says to be strong and courageous, you're looking at the thing that scares you, but in your mind, you're realizing who's with you and who's going to guide you along the way. That means that no matter where you go, no matter what you do, no matter what situation you're in, regardless of who's sitting with you at the table or who's pursuing or going after the same goal you have, no matter what that is, God is with you everywhere at all times, no matter the circumstances, which is another reason why it's so important for us to build that connection. Because when we feel overwhelmed, we're not giving God the control. We want to control it. And there's a lot of people that will sit up there and talk about I manifested this or I did this and I'm my own creator, this, that, and the third. And all of that might look good in the realm where everything is coming instantly, but it does not last. And it is not a great investment in your full life. Because what you're doing is when you say I want control and I'm moving God out of the way, what you're doing is believing in yourself, which is good to an extent, but when you're not following the creator, then you're going to be creating things that are ultimately going to fail. God has a ultimate plan. God has an ultimate goal. God is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the creator of heaven and earth. He put all of this there for us. And for us to move the creator out of the way, and then just to come off of Resurrection Sunday and look at what the plan was. You imagine somebody dying for you, and they tell you that the reason why they're doing this is because they know you're going to fail. They know you're going to sin. They know you're going to have doubts. They know you're going to turn your back on them. They know that there's going to be times where you curse them. You're going to question them. You're going to be frustrated, whatever. And they still willing to lay their life down. I have yet to run into a human that will do that. And I don't know, maybe there's people out there, but to know that the ultimate sacrifice was made, that God was already thinking of us before we even were created. He already knew who we were going to be and what we were going to accomplish. And so, in order for us to not pay the ultimate price, God gave his son to basically pay our debt. So when you think of it from that aspect, sometimes you're like, what am I afraid of when I know the creator has laid everything down for me and has allowed me to be here? I mean, some things make us nervous. It is what it is. Some stuff happens. Situations come up that we weren't prepared for, or things that we had planned and then it changes. So I get that. But at the same time, even in the midst of that fear, we got to remember who's right there with us. We also have to remember that fear sometimes is fully created by what we think might happen. And a lot of the times, what we think might happen never happens at all. So we're basically being afraid of something that doesn't exist. We're creating a story. That's how powerful your mind is. It can create something that you believe so much that you will start to fear it and it will become real. When in reality, if we put our faith in the one who created us, the one who has given us place, the one who breathes air into our lungs every single day, the one who orders our steps and allows us to see greatness, just not in the way we might always see it. And that's probably a good thing because I feel like if we, well, I mean, you can look at the world and see a lot of people who are trying to create things on their own without God's help or not the belief. And it looks good in the beginning, but then ultimately leads to turmoil. It leads to, I mean, it can lead to death. It can lead to so many things that we don't want. So I don't want to be led that way. I want to be led by the one who knows my path, who knows my heart, who knows my steps, who is with me on the journey, who is going to allow me to breathe every single day, who allows me to be a father, who allows me to be a husband, who allows me to be a coach, an advisor, a mentor, a person who can speak. Like that's what I want. Everything I tried to plan on my own failed, but everything that I've given to God has succeeded. That's my proof. I can't speak for everybody, but that's why we have to have that relationship with them. And when you have that relationship, which is something I'm still trying to perfect, you can face things that you fear. You can look at things that once before you were like, I don't know if I can make it. And then you'll realize that that was the piece you needed in order to get to the next level. And sometimes, we fear. I'm not gonna lie. When I got my job promotion, that was probably one of the biggest fears I had because I had never done it before. But I knew that even in the midst of that, because I was in that position and the way that things were happening in life, I had to show up and I had to see it. I had to see it for two reasons. One, I didn't want to go back and be like, man, I could have done that and then never pursued it. But two, I also needed to know that in the midst of that, I could do it. And I had to recognize for myself, like as time went on, I realized like as much as I was wanting to help, it wasn't in the way of how I wanted to do it. I had a different vision of what I thought was gonna happen. There were a lot of mistakes I made. I That's just life. But there were also some lessons that I learned that helped me get better. It also helped me to stand strong in the midst of situations where I had to be the one to make these decisions. I had to be the one that had to stand up and say, okay, I got to see it this way. And it might not always be the fan favorite. I remember somebody telling me, they're like, yeah, man, you should hear all the stuff that people say about you, man. You're not the favorite. And I looked at this person and I remember it vividly. I said, you could put anybody in this position and you all would feel the same way. I said, the only difference is that I'm not going to let it impact me and I'm going to keep showing up until it's my time. And I realized that there was a certain point where it was my time and I had to take a step. And that was scary too, because it was away from what I knew. It was uncomfortable, but I had to move forward. And there's a quote that Shannon Sharp said on Undisputed one time that I thought was great. He told Skip, he said, "Man, at the end of the day, I can fear something and still conquer it." And it's like at the end of the day, how I would change that would be like at the end of the day, I can look to my God and say, Lord, you know that I'm afraid, but I also know that you are bigger than what I'm facing. And if I trust in you, I know that if I walk in this with the pure intention of doing the best that I can to glorify you, I'm going to make it. And that's really all we can do. One step at a time, one foot in front of the other. That's what we got. It can be difficult sometimes, but we also have to trust that things are going to work out. But we got to do it the right way. And one of a thing I want to bring up when it comes to fear, sometimes we spiral out of control because we go so far ahead of where we are. So, like, I am a prime example of this where I'll forget that, like, okay, yeah, God has got me to this point. And then there's times where you can get comfortable and you're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm chilling, right? And then all of a sudden, you find yourself in a position where you were calling on God before, and then once you got to a certain point, you're like, nah, I'm good. And you realize that in every aspect you need them, not just when things go bad, not just when things go good, not just when you need money, not just when you hurting, but in every aspect. Like when you start appreciating the little things, it really opens your eyes to all of the blessings that God really gives you. It's like to think of I woke up this morning. I had all five senses. I was able to walk. I was able to move. I saw my son. I was able to see my wife. Everybody got to where they need to go safe. Like, that's a blessing. Those are things that we take for granted. And every day, you can read about something on the news, which prayers out to everybody in Louisville, for people that I know in Louisville that I've crossed paths with. I really am praying for your city, and I'm also glad that you're safe. I saw a lot of people marking that they were safe, so praise God for that. But there are people who lost family, so it's like you got to walk forward with God in your life because you just never know. And I would hate for you to be in a situation where you get caught up and then you realize God was with you the whole time, but you never activated that. You never looked at him and you never wanted to believe in him. And he's telling you that he wanted to be there for you, but you denied him. And then ultimately that puts you in a place where you don't want to be for eternity. So when you think about it on a grand scale like that, I've definitely like spiraled out. I still have anxious thoughts. I still overthink sometimes. I still feel overwhelmed. And it's amazing how God knows us. And you could read all the scripture, you could go to all the church services, you go to all Bible studies, you can be in the small groups and all of that, and still miss the relationship with God. And that's the biggest thing we have to have. A lot of times, the reason why we have so much fear is because we don't have that relationship. We don't have that trust. Like going back to it, when we go on our journey, the journey ultimately is providing us with trust to show us that, yes, God is going to take us through some things. And although it doesn't always seem perfect, he's still there. He never leaves us, never forsakes us, right? But there's a verse in the Bible that really stands out that is pretty straightforward. It's Psalm 34:4, and it says, I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Delivered me from all my fears because I sought the Lord. I went to look for the Lord. I seek the Lord out. I didn't go in this by myself. Before I took that step, I said, hold on. God, where you at? Are you with me? I know you are here. I'm going to trust that you are with me through everything, and I'm going to walk through this thing knowing that you have not only provided me the opportunity to be here, but you're also going to give me the confidence to go through it, the strength to go through it, the courage to go through it, right? So in Bible ref, it tells us believers today might fear anything from physical injury or illness to job insecurity to difficulties in relationships to political collapse to the threat of incoming nuclear missiles and everything in between. However, Faith replaces fear. The Apostle Paul did not fear an upcoming trial that might result in execution, but he knew the Lord can remove all anxiety when we pray. He counseled in Philippians 4:6-7, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Give it to you straightforward. Listen, you seek the Lord regardless of what you're going through, whether you are fearful, whether you're cheerful, whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you are on top of the world or whether you're at the bottom, whether you're on the mountaintop or whether you're in the valley. Seek him in everything that you do, not just when things are going good, because everybody can praise when it's good, but can you praise when there's warfare and hell around you? Can you still give thanks when you're bankrupt or your car's stalling out or you've lost a loved one or you going through divorce or everything that you had planned is crumbled? Can you still give God thanks in the midst of all that? Seeking God out in those moments, being strong enough to say, God, I need you, being courageous enough to say, God, I can't walk this life without you. I'm going to walk with you. Like, that's looking at that fear and saying, yes, I know that fear is present, but my God is bigger than this. So I'm going to get through it. That's a big thing. So the prayer of faith and fear are mutually exclusive. So while believers are not guaranteed to be taken out of harm's way, God has promised to see us through any harm. Or a verse that just popped in my mind, the Lord is my shepherd. Whom shall I fear? That's half of the battle of the world now. It's like you get all these people who are telling you you gotta turn away and follow your own self and do this and do that. And then you get other people that are like preaching God, but preaching it in such a harmful way that people turn away from it. Like, that's why discernment is important. Building a relationship with Christ for yourself is important. Reading, studying. Like, I've been looking in the book of Job, just looking at somebody who was so faithful and lost everything and going through it. Like, he having his doubts too, and he's got his people that are trying to encourage him. So like, I haven't finished the whole thing, but I'm watching how this works. And yet, he's like, I still believe in God, but man, I had it all and then I lost it, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that is tough. It's a very tough thing, but seeking God first. Nelson Mandela has this quote that I saw, which I thought was really great. He said, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers the fear. Major. Major, major, major. I mean, in the sense of looking at where we are as people and what we're doing in life, there's so much fear. I work with students who have fears about going into the job profession. I've talked with people who are afraid of taking next steps, people who are trying to navigate this life every single day. And there's so much stuff in this world that can take us away from our full purpose. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has something that's set out for them. And then we get lost in the comparison. And then when we see other people do it, and then we have the slightest inconvenience, we get upset. And then we might be put in a challenging situation, and then we're too afraid to step forward. Like, if I go back to that moment in time where I remember I got the offer, and when it first came up, I went around and I was like, there's certain people I know I could talk to about this, and they're going to tell me no. I already know it. So in the back of my mind, I was like, man, this ain't going to work out. Every single one of those people looked at me, and the common theme was, hey, man, if there's anybody that could try to turn this thing around, you could do it. And it was just like, okay, well, I'm going to try, but I got to see it. And yeah, it was, I ain't gonna lie, it was crazy. And there was so many things that were happening all at once, but I still had to show up. And there were days where I felt my absolute worst. And I was walking in scared of, I wonder what's going to happen next. I wonder what I'm going to have to get into next. I wonder if I'm going to be okay, if I'm going to make the right choice, if I'm going to do this and do that. And I was so worried about that. But the one thing I kept in mind was I have to keep showing up. If I don't show up, I can't see what I could be. If I keep trying to deflect and stay away from it, then I'm not going to be there. Like, I'm not going to be able to make the difference that I said I wanted to make. And if I have a long time I'm supposed to be there, I still got to try to do the best I can. And I didn't do all the things the right way. I mean, like, listen, I wish I could have done a better job. But I think the bigger piece would have been me regretting the fact that if I wouldn't have done it. Because if I wouldn't have done anything, I would have been sitting here wondering what if. And I can't wonder what if. So God brought me to something that I never thought I'd do. But I can look back and through everything, I can say that I did it. And I can honestly see it. Blah, blah. Whoa. I can honestly say that I tried to do the best that I could. And that's all that matters. And that's what I try to tell my son. My son, he gets fearful. I remember, oh man, I just thought about this. I remember one time, my son was in swim lessons. It was like, and he did good like in his first part of lessons, but then, he moved up to an advanced part. And it was different because they were asking him to do more things. And I remember he was just being really like odd. Like, he can swim. He's done it, like, without this instructor, like, he's been in the water, he's been in the deep end, he's gone off slides, he's gone off diving boards, he's done, like, all these types of things, but for whatever reason, this particular lesson was scaring him like crazy. And I remember he just kept saying, "Oh, I don't feel that great, I don't wanna do this, I don't wanna do that." And so, my wife was looking at him and looking at me, I was like, "I know something's up," and she was like, Just talk to him." So, as the lesson's going on, I was like, "Man, come on over here, let's talk." So he comes over and I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Man, I just really don't think I feel good. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I should just like sit this one out and go home." And I just was listening to him talk and I just flat out asked him, I looked at him and I said, "Son, are you afraid?" And I remember him just letting his guard down and being like, yeah. He was terrified. He thought he was gonna fail. It wasn't so much that he thought he was gonna like drown or mess up. He had to learn some extra steps. And it wasn't as smooth as his first lesson. But I told him, I said, all you could do is get in there and do the best that you can. That's it. That's it. It's going to help you in the long run. And he just needed to know that he was gonna be okay. He was so caught up in like watching what everybody else is doing that it started to impact what he felt he could do. And I'm like, who cares what they do? You not living a life. You're living your life. He got back in that water and he had a great time. And it just the courage he had to be able to go back in there, like, man, he can do more than I can. I can't swim. I fit that stereotype. It is what it is. Um, but he can, and he does it very well. And I think about that, and I think about how far he's come as far as just like other things, how he does basketball, and he's in all type of like school activities and things. Is he shy sometimes? Yeah, a little bit, but he also steps out more on faith than he knows it, which is a very good example of what we should do when we're faced with different things, when we're faced with that fear, when we start to feel it in our chest, the first thing we should do is say, okay, God, you know how I feel. Show me the way. Give me the strength. Give me the courage. I want to be able to do this to glorify you. I know that I need you. I know that I can't do this by myself. How do I get through? And then trust that God is going to walk with you. And some people are going to see them signs clear. Some people, it's going to be through other things that you do. But however you talk to God or however you hear from God, keep your eyes open so you can see it. So that way that fear diminishes. Because fear is what Satan uses. Because he doesn't want you to be successful. Faith is what God uses, which allows you to be the best version of you that you can be. And that, my friend, is the best way for us to overcome our fear. Faith. It's what it takes to defeat fear. So keep the faith. Stay strong. And always remember that I believe in you. So go believe in yourself, all right? It's the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I'm Ed. We out.
These thoughts up in my head. Things I never did. I took some L's, but I'm still here.
Got these thoughts up in my head. I toss and turn about some things I never said. I got regrets about some things I never did. I took some risks and took some L's, but I'm still here. And I know.